Good evening. How y'all doing? I got a special request. I heard from a reviewer in Russia, and like what some things I said and what have you, and I appreciate that and had a good exchange. And the viewer asked me, could I elaborate on how the media treated Michael Jackson? And I said, this is my wheelhouse. Anybody who knows me knows Michael Jackson is the GOAT to me. He's the reason why I really got into music. And I learned everything about the business about what he did. I seen that man basically was like a Jackie Robinson to music, videos, music, the whole nine. Because what he did is he single handedly broke down the doors of the segregated apartheid of radio in the early 80s. People ain't gonna never know how big and what Thriller meant. It meant everything. Now, I get asked about how the media treated him. Well, it was brought to my attention just in the past week that the National Enquirer is still calling him by that racist wacko jackal name, and they're still using stories and they're still trying to sell papers with him. Brother man been deceased well over a decade now, and they're still trying to sell papers on him. That tells me a few things. That tells me the A-listers they got now just ain't interested and they're not happening. B, Michael Jackson still sells papers, still sells interest. C, their sorry people has to go back to the bread and butter because they really need the attention. And you know, you you get I get asked, and I'm gonna break it down like this. The media did Michael Jackson cold. Um, Michael Jackson did try to plant stuff with Inquirer, try to do certain things, you know, and some people will pick on his appearances and they'll say this and say that. But when they try to take away his artistic genius, they cross the line. When he was never found guilty of nothing, when there was nothing, he had FBI, he had everybody all through him. Nothing. Nothing. Not a thing. He was the most known person to walk this earth in my lifetime. He was known all over the world. He's one of those it people, you know. You don't you it comes into it's just special. Special talent, special force, just dominant, head to toe. You knew who he was. Dominant. Um, the white media was racist against him. MTV was racist against him. They hated the fact they had acknowledged him as the king of pop. They hated his dominance. They hated that the award shows had to acknowledge him. They hated that he was a movement. Black man as a movement. That's too much power. That's too much intelligence. Then he bought the Beatles catalog. The hate was extreme. He publishing. He spoke out against Sony. Called Time Mottola the devil. Spoke the truth. Spoke the truth about the industry. And he, when Eminem did that foul video, they did not counter it. They allowed that to go on. But then he bought his publishing. Black media was filed against Michael Jackson too. I'm gonna tell you why. They were hating on his appearance and they was this and that, but they did not support him in his time of need. I saw people dog that man, treat him less than human, and they ran him off the road. Just didn't really hold him up until he died. And then when he died, everybody's like all romanticizing, playing his songs, buying his records, all that. They did not give that man his flowers in life. He paved a lot of doors and broke down a lot of barriers. So when I get asked how the media treated him, they took him for granted. They treated him like he was just another brother, like another black man. They did not respect what he had done. And I understand why. Because they've been trying to get white artists to they've been trying to get duplicates and they can't. They can't. You know. They wanted Chris Brown, Usher. Those are junior whoppers to Michael Jackson. Those after school special. Justin Timberlake, come on now. You can't. You can't replicate and duplicate an original like Michael Jackson. You can't. He was just too much of a force. See, in death, I seen people like the Los Angeles Lakers, who I will never give any respect for, boycott his music because of that way around that whole leaving Netherland garbage, which was proven false. Then the fakery Oprah Winfrey, and then to keep this man digging his bones through the grave 12 years past his death to still doing it. We want to respect his music. We want to respect his talent. We want to tell him thank you for him gracing this earth and what he did. And I've always said this about Michael Jackson. You fall into one of three categories with him. If you loved him, you support him, and you were down with him. If you were casual with Michael, you bought his records and you supported who you did. And if you didn't like Michael, you bought so and so's records because you didn't want Michael Jackson to dominate. But you knew he was dominant. You knew he was the elephant in the room that you could not ignore. So the tabloids and all these people have not done right by that man. They did not do right by that man in life. And this day, the fact that National Enquirer and these tabloids are still pushing this agenda when there was nothing found, they still trying to get anybody. They put tacky turkey movies and tacky garbage propaganda up against him. And all these rappers owe Michael Jackson their money. Because ain't none of them, they ain't seen no Michael Jackson. That was a standard. That was a standard. And as a businessman, he was a standard. These boutique labels and this fake stream game, he did all that with real money and real streams. Because he was the message in the Bible that went all around the world. The media never showed that man his due. I've always said Michael Jackson was an African warrior because he was the truth. And you don't get but so many of them coming this earth that you can identify. But he dominant. He was a spiritual. And Minister Phyllis Farrakhan said it best about Michael Jackson. He had God in him. You could tell he was a being in light. His energy was too strong. He was a flickering light for a lot of souls. He meant a great deal. And he still does for people who know. So I don't talk to turkeys who try to downplay what he was about because he did it all. He came, he conquered, he saw, and he left the building. He was timeless, and he will always be timeless. There will never be another Michael Jackson. Never. Never. One of a kind artist. And when you break barriers, when you break racial barriers in this racist country, are you kidding me? I could talk about that for days. I really could. Because what he meant and what he did, he shook up the whole world in the industry. And they had to acknowledge him. And they didn't want to. He put the M in MTV. He still makes papers move. There's a reason why they gravitate towards the strength of that man. So, no, the media never did him justice. None of them did him justice. None of them. None of them. All I see is a lot of tap dancing and shucking and jiving going on. He spoke truth. He spoke truth, and he did a heck of a lot for a lot of people. A lot of people in depth to what he was about. Then, now, and to the future. And that is my thoughts and takes. That is a special request video because I want to set my own personal record straight about the most dominant artist of my lifetime, one of the greatest music artists of my lifetime. He's beyond just being the greatest entertainer. That man was one of the greatest artists, period. He changed the face and the cover of music twice as a child artist and as an adult. And they, powers that be, wanted to kill him off and tried to whitewash and try to take him off. They still are. They do anything not to acknowledge the impact he had and what he meant to music. Because he was a standard. And he set standards. And that is something that you can't forget. He made it look so easy, but it was hard work. He paid his dues. He paid his dues. And he put his whole life on that stage. He put his whole being up there. And you're not getting that. You're not getting that. And it wasn't appreciated in life, and it's not appreciated in death. But they're going to still try to make a bag off of him. Believe that. All right, that's my thoughts and takes. And I'm just speaking. This is a dedicated video about Michael Jackson and the media and how he never got his respect. But the fans knew the real deal. The fans still know. I'm out.